Welcome, sports fans. Charles E. Smith Jr. here, and this is a special edition of Inside Sports. Proud to be joined today by none other than Sean Goyle. Out there in the desert, keeping it real. He's stationed out there in Arizona. He does our Arizona Sports Report. Mr. Goyle, talk to me.
Hey, Charles. How's it going, man? I'm living the dream out here in Arizona. How you doing?
Hey, life is good. Life is good, man.
Right.
But, you know, what's happening out there? Let's talk about your squads out there. There's the ASU Sun Devils, the Coyotes. There's the Cardinals. Cardinals are maybe feeling it a little bit, but let's go ahead and go boys to men. ASU Sun Devils, talk to me.
Yeah, you know, ASU went ahead and faced over to Cal. Unfortunately, this was a loss, 47-38, as Cal defeated the Sun Devils. Now, this is the fourth straight loss in a row that they've had, which now, based on that, they're trying to head to a lesser bowl game after starting the season with BCS hopes. Now, regardless of a win, hopes were crushed with a loss to Arizona the week earlier, and Utah's loss to Colorado gave the division title to UCLA. Now, in the game, some coverage was Osweiler threw 21 of 37, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions definitely hurted, giving the other team the win. Cameron Marshall ran 23 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, did well. Roth as well did well, 11 receptions, 199 yards and a touchdown. Now, the main thing on the other side of the ball was Zach Maynard. He did what he was supposed to do, basically not turn over the ball. He went 19 of 26, 237 in yardage, 1 touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. He connected with Issy Sofeli, 21 attempts, 145 yards, and a touchdown. With C.J. Anderson, I apologize, with 10 attempts, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Issy Sofeli went ahead and rushed for 21 attempts, 145 yards, and a touchdown. So, you know, the season was looking great. Unfortunately, it went ahead and ended with 4 serious losses, which actually sealed the fate for Dennis Erickson, and they went ahead and fired him to go ahead and start a new season with one of our new coaches next year.
Right, and you know, what happened with ASU, they started out well, and we talked about it last time too, is they started out well, they were ranked for the first time in years, and then they just started kind of a precipitous fall. And what was the turning point? What was the game, do you think, where the season went from, you know, from them going to the, the rags to riches and then back to rags again?
Well, you got to remember, this whole season was looking like a serious career-saving season for Dennis Erickson. But the game that would have turned it for them, the main game that they had where they finally won was against USC. They had a stellar game against them, beating a serious division rival who was ranked. Now, the game after that, the 4 games that followed after that was a 4-game losing streak. Basically, it seems like they had lost the spark that they had when they started the season. Defense wasn't playing up to par. But I think the main problems were when they went ahead and started facing Oregon after that USC game. When they had faced the games after USC, it wasn't that they were blowout games for ASU. They were close in every single game. They just weren't able to finish or connect on those big plays. It's a shame to see, again, especially starting the season 6-2.
Exactly, and you know, one thing is maybe once they had beaten USC, they had reached the pinnacle, and then weren't able to get up for the other games. But you think about that, UCLA is now going to represent the Pac-12 South. UCLA just got whooped 50-0 by USC.
Yeah, you know, the team that's supposed to be going, unfortunately, isn't going to be allowed to go for the next couple of years. UCLA, I believe they're going to be going in with a losing record, so they're going to actually have to petition to try and play a bowl game because NCAA rules are that you cannot play in a bowl game with a losing record. So
well, you know, and just think about
play.
this. They're going to go into the Pac-12 championship and play Oregon. They just got beat by 50. What do you think they'll get beat by, 65?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a mess, and Oregon's definitely going to have a stronger chance there. Now, here's the one last keynote that I want to put on ASU, kind of a way that I saw how everything was going to wrap up for them, because they did accomplish what they wanted to. ASU's dream was to end the season in the Rose Bowl, and irony has no mercy on this team, because that's exactly what they happened with their last win.
All right, perfect. So, well, we'll just see what the future holds for them, but let's go ahead and move from the boys to the men. The Arizona Cardinals, they're kind of dead and buried, but they're showing signs of life. They won 3 out of 4. Talk to me.
Yeah, the Cardinals are definitely looking well. Like you said, 3 out of the last 4 is really strong. They had a good win against the Rams, 23-20. This was some key notes in this game because we had some breakout plays that happened. Peterson had his 4th punt return for a touchdown. That's tying a rookie record with the famous name that I know everybody knows, Devin Hester. That's not bad company to be with. And now this is 3 weeks after his 99-yard winner against the same woeful Rams. On top of that, his defense is getting stronger. It's getting more refined and polished, so he's getting better there. Beanie Wells had a fantastic game. And now, unfortunately, this fantastic game started out with a fumble, which led to a tying score for the Rams to tie it up. Now, what he had to do was recover from that. So what he did was went ahead and posted up some serious numbers with 27 carries, 228 yards, and a touchdown. Now, that's a Cardinals record. 2 of those runs were 71 yards and 53 yards. There's something that he said at the end of the game. I knew the team needed me. I was the one who put us in that situation in the first place when I lost that ball. That's an end quote. That guy really knows what he did. He went ahead up and set Jay Feely for a 22-yard go-ahead field goal with 4:22 remaining, even on an aggravated knee. He's lucky that the Cardinals are lucky that they have him because John Skelton had a horrible game, 12 of 23, 114 yards, 2 interceptions. He's really not doing the job. Not that Kevin Cobb was doing any better, but we really need him to get a little bit more in connection with his receivers and timing. And finally, another star that I wanted to bring out was rookie Sam Ochoa. The kid had 2 sacks, and he also forced a fumble recovery, which set up a 7-yard run for Wells for a touchdown. So there were some serious key notes in this game.
Okay, perfect. And that was one of the things when we were picking games last week. I don't like to beat my own drum or toot my own horn, but I did pick Arizona to win that game, and they did win that game. So at least a little bit, I do look like a genius just for a moment. For a brief, fleeting moment, I was a genius.
Any bit of glory, right?
I'll take it any way I can get it, man.
Yeah, well,
right.
In this case, Arizona, with where they're at in the season now, they're basically playing for pride, trying to get to that second-place spot just to show that there is some future and some spark that's there for next year.
Okay, and now the team that leads the division, of course, the San Francisco 49ers, but we'll talk about them when we get into our actual NFL report. Let's go ahead and continue on with our Arizona sports report here, where you are. And same lot. Let's go ahead and shift to the smaller arena. Let's change the gridiron for ice. Let's talk some Coyotes, or the Yotes, as y'all call them.
Yeah, the Yotes were stellar this past Tuesday as they faced the Blackhawks and won 4-1. They played at United Center, and it was supposed to be a homecoming game for the Blackhawks because their last home game was November 13th. They had a 6-game Western trip where they beat the Ducks and the Kings. But the Coyotes came out strong. They scored early, silenced the crowd. Goalie Mike Smith was working on a second straight shutout, but Patrick Sharp scored the lone goal for Chicago with 42.9 seconds left. Smith actually finished with 24 shots on goal. One of the quotes that he said after the game, which I found really great, was, "I really wasn't tested that much." That's what he said about that Chicago offense. Now, Chicago came out strong with 4 shot attempts in the first 3 minutes, but they only had 4 more over the next period and a half.
Right.
You got and with that, that's just not good enough. Especially with stars Ray Whitney, he had a goal and 2 assists. Damon Lankow, Shane Doan, and Radim Verbata all scored in that game. They did fantastic against this team.
Yeah, and that's one. The Blackhawks have been really streaky, and especially in the month of November, before they even came out and made this West Coast swing. They started off the month. They lost 3 games, then they won 4 straight, then they lost 3 straight. And along the way, they even got beaten 9-2 by Edmonton before they came out here and beat the Kings and the Ducks.
Yeah, and this game that the Coyotes played was a start to a 6-game stretch in which Phoenix is going to play 5 on the road. And don't think Chicago doesn't have a second chance because they're going to be facing them again on Monday, again at the United Center. So we're going to see another great game against these two great teams.
And if anyone wonders, in the Western Conference, Chicago has scored the most goals, but they've also allowed the most. So you never know what you're going to get from the Blackhawks every night in and night out. But as long as they have Patrick Kane and Marian Hossa, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Sharp, it's always exciting to watch Chicago. You just don't know what you're going to get exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to be even more exciting, especially with Phoenix coming in after having to play Winnipeg tomorrow night and then Philly on Saturday. That Philadelphia game is going to be a real test to them, and they're going to be able to figure out what they need to perfect before they go ahead and face the Blackhawks.
Fantastic. All right, well, we've covered ASU, we've covered the Phoenix Coyotes, the Arizona Cardinals. You know, the NBA, allegedly, they're going to play again. They're going to start on Christmas, which is funny because remember when the NBA players used to bitch and moan about having to play on Christmas Day? Like, oh my God, the indignity of it. You know, there's firemen, policemen, nurses, doctors. They all have to work on Christmas. But basketball players who get, 6 months off every year, somehow they should be exempt from playing on Christmas.
Yeah, you know,
I always
these
found
NBA
that a little
players,
interesting.
you know, they're spoiled. But when it comes to money, hey, even I'll play on Christmas.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Some people have to work at 7-Eleven on Christmas, man.
That's right. That's
Or
my
working at a
people.
gas station. And they're complaining about having to play basketball, making, $10, $15 million a year. Oh, man, I have to play on Christmas. Yeah,
Man,
suck it up,
basketball
boys.
Basketball players wonder why they're called a sissy league when it comes compared to other games.
And it's a good thing they did in that lockout when they did, because I think it was reaching the point where they were going to begin to understand that their sport does not have nearly the support amongst the public that they like to think they do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, especially with the football season in runs right now, and All-Star season starts after the Super Bowl, they would have lost half the season. It's a good thing that they brought it back together. They were losing money left and right.
Exactly, and I didn't really get a buzz in the air that people were really that upset about the NBA not playing, though. That was the thing. As I kind of try to keep a finger on the pulse of the sports community, I didn't think that people were that upset about them not playing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to remember from the fans' point of view. They grew up with basketball. They love the team. No player is above the team ever. No matter how great you are, the team will always, pass your legacy. And, that's what they love to see. As far as when they're fighting about their contracts, as fans see it as rich people fighting with even richer people. In the end, all we want to see is you guys bounce the ball.
Exactly. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Football, we're getting into the stretch run now. The teams have played 11 games. There's 5 games left till the season's over. We're going to be getting into playoffs. It's going to be Super Bowl before we know it. So, let's go ahead and talk some NFL, homeboy. First of all, we got to talk, of course, about the Thanksgiving Day games. Ndamukong Suh. We all saw this play. Him stomping on the arm of Evan Dietrich Smith, costing his team the game, really, because he gets tossed out of the game, and now he gets a 2-game suspension. Then there's all the debate, was the 2-game suspension fair? Should it have been shorter, longer? What do you think, man?
Yeah, it was definitely a very dumb move by a young player in a critical situation against the reigning Super Bowl champ. So he made mistakes. I think the 2-game suspension is good. He's learning right now. He's emotional. It's hard to draw the line between the excitement and aggression that you have in the game and to stop yourself from being physically harmful to someone after the play is dead. So, he's learning these things. He's sitting down. He went ahead and apologized. I've read off-field interviews about the kid. He seems like a great kid. He seems like he's well-minded. It just seems like the excitement of the game kind of overtakes him sometimes. And he needs to control that.
And one of the things I've heard people talk about is they look at the play, they say, well, he may not have stomped that hard, he didn't do any damage. Here's what it comes down to. It's not like an illegal block or a rough tackle or something. There's a time and a place for a lot of those things. There is never a time and a place where you stomp on an opposing player, ever. Nothing good can ever come of that. That's why I do support the suspension. And I'm not talking about whether or not the guy was injured. It has nothing to do with it at all. It's about the intent, and that kind of thing has no place in sports at all.
Yeah, and the very first thing you're taught when you pick up any kind of a football, baseball, or basketball, when you're starting in the Pee Wee League, is sportsmanship. Even win or lose, you get up, you dust yourself off, you look the man in the eye, you shake his hand and say, good game. So he broke the most simplest rule there is. But again, he's young, he's still learning, so I'll give him a pass this time.
All right, perfect. And then, you know, another team kind of in this little bit of the same position as your Cardinals out there, the Miami Dolphins. Everyone knows that's my favorite team, although I do wear Steelers underwear, but I do love the Dolphins. And Thanksgiving Day, they really should have beat the Cowboys. They lose that game by 1 point. I like what the Dolphins show, though. They're getting into the red zone. They're not executing, but they've shown the ability to move the ball up and down the field.
Yeah, you know, the Dolphins did great in that game, too. You have to remember that in total net yards, they had more than the Cowboys. They had fewer penalties. They had longer possession, and they had fewer turnovers. Yet they still lost the game because, like you said, they can drive down the field, but they just can't cap it. And you need to be able to get the ball into the end zone consistently if you're going to win in this league.
There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. The Packers, still undefeated. The Giants, they took kind of a beating on Monday night against the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And the Giants, that was one thing. They were kind of, they could have been in that game, but again, the Giants, the untimely turnovers and interceptions, you know, sometimes of Eli Manning, that really came back to haunt them in this game.
Yeah, I mean, on top of the turnovers, they had the nightmare of Drew Brees on top of them. I mean, the guy is stellar. He keeps his eyes downfield. They did a replay where Jaws was showing one of the plays that Drew Brees was, he ran left, ran back right, and he dodged 2 to 3 different players. Every single time he was touched, his eyes were still downfield. That kind of vision and precision that he's bringing to the game, it's hard not to go with the Saints on a win.
And, you know, don't look now, but the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys at 7-4. The New York Giants are now 6-5. The Dallas Cowboys have won 4 in a row. The Giants have lost 3 in a row. And that's just how quickly the tide changes. The Philadelphia Eagles, though, they're now 4-7. They just lost this past weekend, and it looks like they lost a lot of their composure. Deshaun Jackson gets benched, and it's just a mess there in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've got this Thursday night game coming up against Seattle, and not only are they out of sync and not in rhythm, they've got quite a few players out. They've got wide receiver Jeremy Maclin out, quarterback DRC's out, Mike Dick's out. They've even got Nnamdi Asomugha and LaShawn McCoy on questionable. This team's beaten and battered, and, you know, like the cliche is now, as everyone's stating, they're more of a nightmare than the dream team ever was.
Exactly, and there you have an epic clash of 2 4-7 teams, prime time on Thursday Night Football, one team sporting the ugliest uniforms in the history of professional sports.
You don't like that shiny fish blue that they wear?
The Seahawks, how did they, why would you, you know what, how would you even make a prototype of that? It's one thing to make a prototype, but who signed off on it?
You know, they were probably just sitting around a table and looking around like, well, how can we represent Seattle? Well, Seattle has a bunch of rain. Why don't we make the suits blue? A real ugly blue, too, because it's real gray out here.
Yeah, well, that just shows that you should not smoke crack and design uniforms at the same time.
I think I can agree with you on that statement.
Yeah, all right. Let's go ahead and move on. Another ugly game, though, was the Sunday night game, Kansas City and Pittsburgh. And I got the feeling with Pittsburgh, you know, Polamalu was injured. I think had it been a different game, a different set of circumstances, he might have come back in. But it's one of those things where, okay, let's go ahead and just win this thing ugly. They knew they had the game. They knew it really wasn't in question. So it's one of those things like Charles Barkley said about a game when he was playing with Phoenix. His team won the game easily, but he only had, 13 points and 6 rebounds or something like that. They asked him about it. He says, well, you know, when you're just going to the corner store to get a gallon of milk, you don't drive a Ferrari. So it was like that, I think, with the Steelers against the Chiefs.
Yeah, definitely. It was a bumping game. It was real ugly, and with Polamalu coming out, they didn't have that threat in the backfield. But you and I were talking earlier about Tyler Palco and him trying to connect with Dwayne Bowe. Bowe just kind of let that one pass sail right over him, and an interception was completed. these kinds of turning points in the games for the Chiefs is just too harsh, and especially against a great defense like the Steelers.
Right, and first Bo points to the end zone as in, I'm going deep. Then he cuts the route off. Then he stands there and just watches the ball sail over his head. Now, some of those of you out there who may not play football, the thing is that when a quarterback throws you the ball, even if you can't catch it, you're supposed to jump up and knock it down, change the trajectory of the ball. You never just let it sail over your head, because that's what leads to interceptions.
Yeah, and this Kansas City Chiefs team, with its indecisions and the multiple errors that they're making on offense right now, it's the main reason why they're sitting at 4-7, just like the Chargers, and tied for last place in the AFC West.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about the Chargers. And I'll let everyone know, Mr. Goyle, he is from out here in Southern California. He loved the Chargers at one point, and we got tired of those slow starts. But you know what they did this year? They changed it up. Instead of starting out 1-4 or 0-5 and then going on a run, this year they started out 4-1, and now they've lost 6 straight games. They're 4-7 on the year.
Yeah. It's hard, especially a team that, let me correct you, I still love, regardless of if they're winners or not. I still love my team.
All right.
But yeah,
all right.
It's rough. Like I even said it when everyone was hoping, let's start better, let's start the season off better. Well, honestly, we started it off bad 3 or 4 times. We finished 3 out of 4 times or 4 times in the positive. So I didn't mind having a great run at the end of the year. Why not? I'll stick with Norv member. But unfortunately, that didn't happen this year. It's a terrible thing what's going on. Philip Rivers is completely off points with the most interceptions in the league. And, they're facing Jacksonville, who's number 4 overall defense and number 4 in passing beat. So this isn't going to be another pretty game for Philip Rivers.
Well, Jacksonville just fired their coach, too. So we'll see what they're doing there. And maybe we'll see if that's the answer. We'll see. A team, whenever they get a new coach or a coach gets fired, they normally come out with a different attitude than the next game, be it more positive or more negative. But there's going to be a difference to that Jacksonville team now, as opposed to the up and down. Will they show up, lose to teams they should beat teams they should lose to, and ultimately hover around 500 all the time?
Yeah, well, after getting rid of Jack, his 9-year tenure there was great, and as the normal president would say, was respected and enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is time for them to get that new coach, and hopefully the Jacksonville does come out with a little bit more firepower and a little different mindset to these games that they're playing, finish off the season. But this game, I think it's going to be a ground game to me. You got NJD 23, you just got to stop him. And Ryan Matthews just came off of a 140-yard game, or 120-some-odd yard game that he played last week against Denver. So I think these two backs are going to have a serious input in this game, especially since both teams are 14 or lower in rush D, and Chargers are at a wonderful 25th place in rush D right now.
Yeah. Well, the Chargers, and I've watched their demise as well myself, and Rivers, I really don't understand it, because he's always been really a great pocket passer, and he just looks, is the word confused, when he's just sitting there in the pocket. He looks like a rookie. I don't get it. I've never seen this kind of regression in one season.
Well, you got to remember, with Philip Rivers' passes, the windows that he throws into are so tight. Even if you look back 3 to 4 years, he's always throwing into coverage, but his passes were just on point and in connection with his receivers. With no off season, I guess they weren't able to connect with each other in practice. He's just not able to read the defense as well as he once was. And on top of that, he's had 2 or 3 games where they've just botched 2-minute drills. And if you can't finish a 2-minute drill, that's going to hurt you. Look at Eli Manning. A lot of people don't enjoy his football play, but when it comes down to 2-minute drills, I'll definitely take him.
In fact, I would, if it was a pressure game and I need a drive to win the game, I will take Eli over Peyton. And anyone who thinks I'm crazy for saying that, you check Peyton Manning's record in big games when the game is on the line and what he does late in games. Case in point, the Super Bowl they lost against the New Orleans Saints. But anyways, Peyton Manning has a career playoff winning percentage under 500, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
True.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's get to this week's slate of games. Let's pick a few games.
All right.
Sound good? Play a little
Yeah,
game
yeah.
of
Which
pick'em?
ones do you want to go over? Okay, you got it. Let's do pick 'em.
Well, hey, let's start off with, how about Cincinnati and Pittsburgh? You know, I love that. I love those big AFC tilts like that. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh trying to keep pace and ultimately pass the Baltimore Ravens and win that division outright.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good matchup. The last game that they went ahead and faced one another, Pittsburgh was the one who came out victorious in that game. Andy Dalton did well, and he now has his main man, A.J. Green, back on the gridiron, so he's going to be connecting with him. It's going to be an aerial assault. It will be a fantastic game. And in this one, I'm going to go ahead and pick the upset with Cincy in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Just like I said, you shouldn't smoke crack and design uniforms. You should not smoke crack and do sports shows either, Mr. Goyle, okay?
We will double-check that statement on next week's show.
All right. Hey, you know what? Let's pick a game out your way. Let's see if you pick another upset. The Dallas Cowboys going into Arizona to play the Cardinals. 7-4 Cowboys against the 4-7 Arizona Cardinals.
Well, this one's a little bit tougher for me. The game's going to be strong, especially with Beanie Wells coming off of such a great game. DeMarco Murray obviously doing stellar now for Dallas, and Tony Romo connecting with he's not getting Miles Austin back right now, but he's going to be connecting with Des Bryant. So it's going to be a pretty even matched game. As far as offense is concerned, that's not going to be anywhere near where the Cardinals are going to be playing. The main concern for Dallas this game is going to be stopping Patrick Peterson on those punt returns. But this one isn't going to be enough that Dallas is going to win this game.
And you know what? I think you're right about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, how about Detroit? The now sans Dominican Sue for 2 games. Detroit Lions at New Orleans.
Yeah,
that would be the Sunday night game.
Yeah, this is going to be an NFC battle. With Sue out for the next 2 games, they're going to have a serious problem, stopping Drew Brees. Drew Brees is on pace right now to throw for 5,444 yards, crushing Dan Marino's record. And that's a great thing to say, because I believe Dan Marino had a 5,004. To crush it by 440 yards would be an incredible feat.
There is nothing fantastic about crushing any of Dan Marino's records. I'll just let you know that right now. However, I do agree. I think I see Detroit losing this game, and Detroit, as hot as they started, they're 7-4 now. They're playing New Orleans, who's at 8-3, and Detroit they're kind of sliding now. Teams have figured out that they're not taking them lightly anymore. They know they're a threat. So Detroit is going to have to get used to being a good team in this league. And I like New Orleans and the role that they're in. They just crushed the Giants. I think they're going to take care of business at home against Detroit as well.
Yeah, that's true, because you got to remember the Saints have the number 1 overall offense right now, and Detroit needs to get past their third down issues. You know, anytime they get into third down situations, they're never able to complete it. Saints have a serious weapon with Jimmy Graham this year, with Drew Brees connecting with him left and right. Now, on top of that, the Saints have a 3-headed monster in the backfield with Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas, and Darren Sproles putting up numbers. And I think you're right. The Saints are going to win this game.
Okay, one other game which I picked this from the beginning as the upset of the year. The 11-0 Green Bay Packers visiting the 6-5 New York Giants. You know where I stand on this. Tell me, am I crazy?
Well, for you to call an upset against the Packers is always a little crazy to me. But, I can't say that I'm going to give it to Eli right now. Tom Coughlin seems to be very upset about the way his team's playing. Obviously, they're having some serious issues. Bradshaw really isn't running the ball as aggressively as he once used to. He seems to be doing almost an elusive back style when he's more of a ground and pound runner, being 260-some-odd pounds. He needs to learn that he's not going to be twinkling on toes. So in this
we talking Bradshaw or we talking Brandon Jacobs?
Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon Jacobs. Right.
Okay.
260 pounds. Yeah, Brandon Jacobs. I apologize. You know, he needs to learn
Well, you
his
know what?
position.
I didn't like the fact that Brandon Jacobs, when he took Ron Dane's number when he got there, I knew that could lead to nothing good.
Yeah, you know, anytime you take a stellar player's number and then not produce it, it's going to hurt you. You know, you're never going to come into a team and try to wear somebody's number and not produce. But you got to remember, right now we're watching a serious change in the quarterback position with Aaron Rodgers playing perfect in almost every aspect. He's throwing the same passing percentage and almost has the same quarterback rating as he is in the pocket with him running as well. There's no stopping Aaron Rodgers right now.
Yeah,
I think
he's the best quarterback in the game. I'll just go ahead and say that outright.
Yeah, I mean the green and yellow, it's going to take over the red and blue for this Sunday.
Okay, so Big Blue goes down. Yeah, well, I didn't like the fact that they lost. I hope that if their defense is healthy, the Giants' defense is healthy, and that's always you pick a game based on two healthy teams. I think the the Giants are going to pull this upset. All depends on Umenyiora, who went out, and they lost someone else also off their defense. But if those guys are healthy, I still like the Giants to pull off this upset. And remember, you heard it here first on Inside Sports. You know what, homeboy? We're out of time.
Not a problem, man. And we'll, again, check up on all these sports next week, guys.
Perfect. So everybody, thanks for joining us right here on Ustream. And remember, if you miss any part of the show or you want to see the replay, you can go ahead to YouTube and just search under The Inside Sports. We have a channel there. In fact, I was just at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles with the Los Angeles Kings. They were doing a visit. Got there, did some footage, put together a nice little package. Go ahead and check it out. Always nice to see the athletes give something back to the community. So for Mr. Sean Goyle, I'm Charles E. Smith, Jr. This has been an Inside Sports production. Thank you for joining us.